I think it's important to note we have a blanket statement that wraps around all of these, and we say that our overarching goal is to help students develop their abilities to perform as ethical, competent, and reflective communicators in multiple contexts. So these 6 learning goals are all aimed towards that. My name is Jonathan Shailor. I'm a professor of communication at the University of Wisconsin Parkside and director of the certificate program in conflict analysis and resolution. So right now I'm teaching Communication 385, conflict mediation, and one of the core things that we're doing in that class has to do with nonviolent communication or compassionate communication. And that involves primarily oral skills. And what we're doing there is developing ways of speaking that are more effective in sharing experience, expressing feelings, understanding a person's needs, and responding to those needs. And that's a tremendous skill that could be, used in many contexts. But notice how it's about understanding oneself, one's own feelings, needs, requests, and also others. So that's a really clear example for me of how the identity goal is relevant. A lot of us, a lot of the time, go through the world with a kind of monocultural perspective, which is believing that the way we see the world is the way that others see the world. And the way we experience the world is the way that others experience the world. But of course that's not the case. So in the communication department, and certainly in the courses that I teach as well, we really emphasize awareness of difference. And the difference between ethnocentric communication, which would be evaluating a cultural other as somehow deficient according to one's own standards, understanding the difference between monocultural communication, ethnocentric communication, and what I like to think of as cosmopolitan communication. That's the goal for me with diversity, is getting students to be more sophisticated, to be more cosmopolitan, to understand that there are many ways in which we're similar and there are many ways that we're different. This concept of intersectionality, that nobody is a one thing or a type, cultural type, that we're all individuals. So students work as individuals, but they also work on teams, and the teamwork that they do in my classes, the group work, is practice in sharing leadership and playing a supportive role in groups, and being an observer in groups, playing multiple roles in order to fit into a larger system and to be a part of a team. That's part of it. And then also shifting one's role when one enters a new context. For example, we go to Halo, the homeless shelter in Racine, to do work in teaching people conflict resolution skills, and their students take on the role of teacher, and that's good practice. They're all so important. I mean, every study that I've looked at, from Forbes to people who do marketing research and job placement research, are continually hitting all of these as saying that they're the most important for entry-level skills, and also some of them are the hardest to find. I was interested to find in one recent survey that where over 200 employers were asked what are the most important entry-level skills for your people. 98% said communication skills, and then 91% said finding entry-level employees with good communication skills is one of the hardest things to find. So not only is it most highly valued, but it's also considered very difficult to find, which I thought was interesting. But all of these, diversity is a big one in the workplace. A lot of companies and nonprofit organizations are very aware of the need to diversify their workforce and to relate to diverse clients, and so they really value an entry-level employee who's going to bring that to the table. That would be another example. All of them are so important. The one thing that cuts across a lot of these is just the ability to use multiple means to express ideas clearly with a sensitivity towards context and the people that you're talking to. So I would say that globally hits on all of these all of these competencies.
My name's David Wooten. At 27 years old, I became a college student for the first time. I ended up here. I chose to be a communication major. I did very well and ended up graduating as the outstanding graduate for the Comm department in May of 2011. After that, I went to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee for a master's degree in media studies, and then continued on into a PhD program also at UW-Milwaukee for media cinema and digital studies. I am now currently teaching communication and film and media in general at a couple of different places, one of them being UW Parkside. I already had an established relationship with the professors here, so when I stopped going to school, I had the credentials to come teach, and they offered me a job pretty much right away. It was a little different when I went through, but for the most part they've stayed the same. I apply what I learn here every time I walk in the door to teach. It's all the same material. I took all these classes, and I can tell my students, hey, in the spring of 2010, I was sitting right there in this classroom going through this class. It's real nice to be able to do that. I use the theory and the practicality that I learned in this program every time I step into a classroom. And just instead of being the student now, I'm the teacher. But even as the teacher, I get to learn stuff from the students all the time, especially teaching a media class. I don't know how to use Snapchat. All these questions get asked in almost every interview, and they get asked in multiple ways. Identity. They want to know who you are and how you're a good fit for their company. And they're going to ask you that in several different ways to see if you're consistent. Diversity, they want to ask you how you're diverse or how you deal with diversity. They want to make sure that you're not, egocentric, ethnocentric, or prejudiced on anything. Being able to produce work, being able to produce a message. Most jobs end up having that. Even if you're working a cash register at McDonald's, you have to be able to speak and to relay a message to customers. Knowledge, obviously, that's what a resume is all about, is about your knowledge. Research, applying for jobs in academia, that's something that you deal with all the time. You just naturally get asked that question all the time, what are your research interests? And especially now that I'm teaching classes that fall in line with my research interests. When I was here, I was taking a class with Megan, and we had this semester-long project we had to do. And I did mine on video games, advertising in video games. That topic ended up becoming my thesis for my master's program. And then, on top of that, I did that in my PhD program, and next spring, I'm teaching a video game class here at Parkside. So, it's kind of come for full circle with that. For me, the roles, adapting and being able to perform in, whether orally, written, non-verbally. I also teach interpersonal communication besides media, and knowing the facets of nonverbal communication help immensely. Identity, I use all these every time I go to get a job, every time I teach interviewing as well. So I teach all, even if it's not put in the terms that the learning goals are in, you use them every day. Like diversity, I have to teach students. I deal with, anywhere from 20 to 40 different personalities in a classroom at a time. And Parkside is the most diverse campus in the UW system. So I have to deal with diversity all the time. And I teach it. I teach critical theory, so I teach that.